Hi, welcome to another tutorial. This time we're looking at the animation within movement. So before we got our idle animation, so if we just press play and have a look what we did before, we can see that we can move with our nice script and we have our idle animation, but we need to move with our arrow keys left and right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and look at our animation again, make sure we clicked on play. And this time I've already dragged in my run files, and as you can see we've got lots of run files here, usually a lot more frames, so we've got 8 frames there. And what I'm going to do is probably I can click all of these at the same time and make sure that they are 16 frames, 16 by 16 pixels, sorry, and click apply. Lovely, so they've all changed there. So what we're going to do is just get rid of whatever that is, and we're going to create a brand new animation clip. And we're going to make sure that, there we go, player idle, and we're going to again say player underscore run. Click save, and that creates a whole new animation for us. So what we can then do is make sure we select all 8 of these animations and drag them in. And when we press play, you'll probably go mad. There we go. But it does look cool. So what we can do is, so what was that, 8. So if we change the sample to 16, so we double it, might slow it down. Cool, that's looking good. Happy with that. Great, so now what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at the animator. So we go up to window, go to animation, we're going to go to the animator window. So at the moment we haven't got anything there. We need to make sure we clicked on our player, and as we can see we have 2 things here. If we zoom in, we've got our player idle and our player run. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put, if I press play, we can see that in our animator, player idle is running straight away from entry. So entry is almost like our void start within a script. Whatever is linked to entry will be the first thing or the first animation that plays in our game as soon as we press play. So we can even change the default here. We can change the default state to run, press play, and then that animation will run through just like that. There we go. Fantastic. So we don't want to be running straight away, so we do want our default state to be the player idle animation. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a transition. So if we right click on our player idle, we can create a transition to player run, and vice versa, we can create a transition back to player idle. Okay, so in order for us to move, we need to dictate a clause, a condition, or a rule of if we are moving faster than 0, we will then go into our run animation. So we're initially going to create a parameter. So parameters up here, if we click on parameter, at the moment our list is empty. And just like that we controlled our speed with float, we can create our own float within our animation, and we are just going to call this move, just like that. Fantastic. So what we can do is then look at player idle and player run and click on this transition, so it's gone to blue, and we can even preview this transition. So there we go, we've got our idle position. If we press play, we go to our run. There we go. Awesome, that looks cool. So when we've got that, let's just drag that down here. We can see our condition. Okay, so what we need to do from idle to run, we need to press plus. So our condition of move pops up, and we're going to leave this at greater than 0 because this is exactly what we want. If we move and our speed is greater than 0, then we will run to our player our transition to our player run animation. That's exactly what we want, so that's fantastic. So if we look at player run back to idle, click on this plus again to create this condition. This time we want to make sure that move is actually less than 0.1. Okay, so if we move less than 0.1, we will go to our idle state. Okay, lovely, great. So after that, we are, and to understand this better, we're going to create have two scripts, and we're going to make sure they talk to each other. We've already got in our scripts, we've already got our player animation, our player script, and we need to create a player animation script. So we go to create C# script, and we're going to call this player animation. Press enter. Lovely, fantastic. And once again, we are going to put this script onto our player if it wants to go. Oh, did it do it? Let's have a look. No, not yet. There we go. Great. So player animation is on there. Okay, so what we're going to do is double click our player animation script, and this should pop up. Cool. So we want to move via our animator, don't we? We want to show the transition between our move and our animation. So what we need to do is call up that animator. So we're going to create a variable. Going to call it private. We can call animator up. Where is it? There we go, right at the bottom. Animator, and I'm going to say underscore anim because I don't want to write animator a few thousand times. And then we are going to call up and assign animator to the handle of animator. So if you say underscore anim equals get component, and then we can say animator because that's within our inspector on our character. Lovely. So after that, we're not going to use update because that means, again, remember when we sampled at a rate of 60 frames, it was really quick and didn't work well at all with the animation. So we're going to create our own public void, our own method. So public void, and we're going to call this move. And this usually wants to do lots of different horrible things where it automatically does something else. But what we're going to do, there we go, easy. So we're going to create our own method called public void. Okay, and make sure that we have the curly brackets and our code goes within the curly brackets, so it's all encapsulated into this method. Okay, so what we need to say is we need to call up our anim.setFloat because that's the float that we've created with our parameter. And then what we need to say is that we need to call up our move. So we say move, comma, and then what we did with our transition, in our transition, so if we click on our transition here, we can see that its float is a maths equation if we move greater than 0. So what we need to do is call up this maths equation within our script. So what we do is say mathf.abs, and then we add move into there. So I'm just going to write move again. There we go. Okie dokes. So what we need to do is make sure we call up move within our brackets here, and then we write move there, and that should sort that out. Lovely. Okay, so now we need to go back into our player script because we need the animator our animation script to talk to our player script. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we can call this a private, and we are going to call up the player animation script. There is player animation, and then we're going to call this underscore player anim, just like that. Fantastic. And then we need to call this up in start as well. So again, we need to call this up. So player anim equals get component, which is obviously our player animation script. Lovely. So once we've done this, everything within the player animation script, for example, like our move or our void start, can be implemented within this script as well. So it makes it really a lot easier to understand what's happening in both of the scripts at the same time. Okay, so what we're going to do is put some space at the bottom of our void update, and what we can say is underscore player anim dot move is horizontal input, and then we're going to do the semicolon. So what we're saying here is our player animation move method, so this move method right here is now going to be affected every time we move left or right. Okay, so what we're going to do is save this script, pop over to our scene, and if we press play, I'm going to make sure we can see our animator as well, so just to scroll this up. So as we can see, if I move left, I kind of run, or right, I kind of run as well, but it's kind of a bit laggy. So, and this is, as you can see here, because I'm sliding along a bit. So we need to have a look at our transitions if we have an issue like this. So what we need to do, come out of play, and if we have a look at our transition, we have something checked called has exit time. This means it's waiting for the animation to complete before running the next animation. So what we want to do is uncheck has exit time, and also the transition. So if we click on settings, we want to get rid of transition duration and change that to 0. Press enter. So it confirms that, and we're going to do that on the same run to idle transmission as well. So uncheck exit time, make sure that is 0, and hopefully when we press play we should have a nice easy streaming. There we go. So straight away we create a really nice animation. Lovely. So we do have one issue where we're not walking, we're not running, we're only running right, not running left. Our sprite's not flipping. So we need to have a look at our player, look at the sprite, and then we can have a look at, so we can put animator down here now. We need to look at our sprite flipping on the X. So if we do this, we can see that we can control our sprite flipping through sprite renderer, okay, through here. So what we need to do is go back into our player script. Let's just make this a bit bigger so we can see what's happening. And we're going to create a new variable. And that new variable is going to be our sprite renderer. So if we say private sprite, I can't see it. There it is, sprite renderer. And then we can just call this underscore sprite, just as a quick name. There we go. Again, we need to call this up within void start. So we're going to say underscore sprite equals get component, and that component is going to be our, obviously our sprite renderer. There it is, all the way down there. Open and close brackets. So now we have control of our sprite renderer. So what we need to do within our update, we are going to create an if statement. So we say if horizontal input is greater than 0, what are we going to do? What's going to happen with our sprite? So we need to say sprite dot flip x equals false. Okay. So if we're moving right and we're going greater than 0, we're not going to flip the sprite. But else if we are, if horizontal input is less than 0, we are going to definitely flip this sprite. So we write this equals true with the semicolon. Great, so let's check this script, and we can make sure, if we click on our player as well, that we've made sure of our greater and lesser numbers. So if we look at our position, if we press play, so if our center is 0, so if we go greater, we should run to the right, just like that. And if we are less than 0, we run to the left. So there we go. We have our sprite flipping from left to right. Fantastic. I hope this video has helped you animate your characters from left to right, and also with the idle as well. Cool. See you soon.